tournaments, then jumped onto Drago V-Star, but he could still use that Giratina V-Star, and now Giratina V-Star, and now he's going to be piloting the Dragapult EX.
Yeah, and such a consistent player as well. It's easy to look at these one-off championships, but another player who consistently had top finishes, especially around that 2023 season, and another one of these brothers. We talk about the strength of the Kammerman brothers and so on, and it is the Kammerman brothers. They keep coming up. Yuho, an amazing player, and Consta recently has shown exactly why they're both so good.
And Consta's staying calm, they're literally yawning right now, so he's relaxed. He's ready.
So chilled, isn't it?
He is very chilled out. As we see the prize cards, well, that might make him a little bit more awake, prizing his A-Spec, the secret ops. In addition to one of those Monkey Dory, every time you can get Dreadbrain online against because that Phantom Dive damage is so crucial.
And here we go, our final round of Utrecht. Alberto versus Consta, looking to try and answer the debate. Dragapult or Gardevoird, which is better? Consta piloting the Psychic deck with Gardevoird at the helm. Meanwhile, Alberto sticking to his Dragon types he loves so much with Dragapult EX. And early on here, Consta getting a deck search and is going to be checking his prize cards.
And even though we've seen so much success from the Brent Tonneson build, Consta is playing a few different cards within his list. He does have the Mew EX, which is so strong at copying Dragapult. We know Dragapult EX as one of the most powerful, devastating attacks in the game. So when Gardevoird is able to copy it with a Psychic type using the Fairy Zone from Clefairy, it can be devastating.
Well, first goal of Gardevoird EX is get as many of those Psychic energy into the discard pile. Typically, we like to attach those energies from hand, but we have Psychic Embrace on Gardevoird EX, which allows you to attach an energy from your discard pile to any of your Psychic Pokemon, and if you do, they take 20 damage. And you might think that's a bad thing, but you've got Monkey Dory, which you see there in the active spot, able to move damage from your side to your opponent's side, so a great bit of synergy.
Yep, Gardevoird can't read the rules. The hair's in the way. It's allowed to attach as many energies as it likes, provided they're coming from that discard pile. And the Psychic Embrace downside of putting damage onto your own Pokemon can become an upside with Adrenabrain from Monkey Dory.
And you've got attackers like Drifloon and Screamtail, which do damage based off of how many damage counters are on them, so a great bit of synergy across the board. And as you see, Consta just making sure he knows exactly what he's working with. We'll recognise, as you said, that A-Spec is gone, but another interesting situation here with Gardevoird. How many Monkey Dory do you play? And Consta opting to play just the two, while having one of them prized, will limit that board state that we often see Gardevoird try to do against Dragapult, of having the double Monkey Dory pushing energy back towards their opponent.
Looks like the Artisan Stadium is Consta's only means of getting a roll down, but can at least get that rolling. Has not much else in hand at all either, Mike. I just saw a bunch of energy cards. Nothing too usable as we pass over to Alberto, who I think already has access to that Budju in hand, and every opponent has a slower start. If you can start initiating an Itchy Pollen item lock, you massively reduce the number of cards remaining in the deck that can be used to get them out of that rut.
And typically that Artisan is a last choice way to find your basic Pokemon, as you'd rather not give it to your opponent. As you see here, Alberto able to use Consta's Artisan to find any non-rulebox basic Pokemon and put it on his bench. And will be a chance to deck check, as we saw Consta do, making sure he can work out what those 6 prize cards are, and we'll recognise a few important Pokemon in there, the Monkey Dory, some Dreepy and Dracloak coverage taken away, and there are 2 of those Luminous Energy, 2 out of the 4.
And for Dragapult, it's all about trying to work towards that Phantom Dive attack. 200 of the active and 6 counters anywhere you like to sprinkle across the board. And when Gardevoird is already self-damaging so much with Psychic Embrace, that is sometimes devastating. But another key selling point of the Dragapult is in fact at stage 1. The Dracloak with Recon Directive allows you to see so many cards and piece together big combinations. So Alberto needs to find multiple Dreepy on this first turn.
And these 2 decks at the top of the current meta, about 20% for each of them in day 2 here, and they will be rising to the top. They have converted well. There was less than that in day 1, around 15 to 10% for both decks, and now they have risen up. And that is just a credit to how good they are at winning matches. It's that combination of early disruption with the Badu and that ability to set up such a powerful attacker in Dragapult EX and a powerful ability in Gardevoird EX.
And not just the Buddy Pop in turn 1 for Alberto. His turn gets even better here with the Arven. We'll be able to find a rescue board for the Genesect to retreat and can get into Itchy Pollen, finds another Buddy Pop in here. So we'll be able to thin the deck of even more Pokemon as well.
And interesting, such a strong setup. That Buddy Poffin, not even needed, can be used to discard to find some energy from the deck. Typically, decks will play 4 Buddy Poffin as you really want to see them early on. As the game goes on, they become less and less useful. And on this occasion, Alberto comfortable with the amount of Pokemon he's got out. So those Buddy Poffins are to be removed from the deck and put in the discard pile.
Also spying Ultra Ball, recognising that Consta is likely to play his own copy of Budju, so proactively finding a Dracloak for next turn to allow you to draw more cards. Expecting an Itchy Pollen lock is really heads-up play already from Alberto, demonstrating why he's on this 9-1-1 record in our Swiss Round 12.
As these players settle into their early board, trying to set up for the rest of the game, it looks at the moment like Alberto is in a strong position, but Consta very easily can set up his own Badu, and then it will be a slow start, and as the Artisan sits in play, the longer it stays there, the more both players are able to guarantee their setup is fully there, and that will mean we'll have a slower start to this game, evolution through the stage 1s, no rushed entry of an EX with that rare candy, and it will be an attachment for Alberto, hit all of the beats of that first turn, a wide board, an energy attachment, Badu in the active, and A-Specs turned off with that Genesect.
That is essentially the dream start for the Dragapult EX, especially with the Dracloak in the hand for the following turn. Did Consta pick up any useful cards here? I'm looking at rare candy, I'm looking at a lot of energy in that hand, Mike. Just the Artisan to use here. To try and slow your opponent down, it may still be worth trying to find your Budju, but another Ralts is also a decent option here.
The Monkey Dory can attack in this situation. It has that Mind Bend for 60, and you might be looking at home thinking that Badu has 30 HP, we can take a knockout here. Why might Consta be avoiding taking an early knockout?
It's due to the A-Spec choice of Dragapult. So often it's the unfair stamp. So if you take a cheeky prize just hoping maybe to get a useful card off your own prize cards, suddenly you can be in a helter-skelter, going down to just 2 cards. So you have to actually be a little bit reserved at times. And this could be one of those moments when your hand is pretty awkward. The even 2 card may be worse. So let's just grab an additional Ralts here, protect yourself from any aggressive attacking lines from Alberto.
I know you have a way of looking at this matchup of Dragapult needs to win the early game to take the victory, where Gardevoird, once it's fully set up, puts itself in a very favourable position, especially if Gardevoird EX is on board. So for you watching at home, you'd be wondering when is Consta going to be able to evolve up? Can't use that rare candy, can't use things like Ultra Balls to find the evolutions. It's so going to be really tough now to set up a board of Gardevoird EX, and we'll be interested to see how Consta works his way through this. Might actually be looking to take that knockout and go a bit more aggressive and hope that Alberto doesn't have the time to set up.
It's one of those moments when your hand is so bad anyway that like you're in top deck mode, so you may as well take the one. Even keeping the 1 damage counter on Monkey Dory for later is quite reasonable, knowing that your opponent can also play their own Monkey Dory. As we do take the first prize from Consta, not fearing the unfair stamp, his hand's so bad anyway. Let's see the first recon directive from Alberto. He's also on a hand with no draw power. Is any of these a supporter that can draw additional cards? You've seen your opponent not draw much. Your own Iono look less appealing.
Yeah, really needs that unfair stamp here. Would be an ideal situation. And the Artisan will allow for another Budu to come down, so we will see the item lock continued, allowing Alberto to keep growing that board, add more Dracloaks on board, get more energy down. No rare candies in Alberto's deck, so even without that item lock, we'll have to take a few turns to really set up here.
Now we're going to see the Bravery Charm come onto Budu. The issue is that a Mind Bend could still KO this Budu. The Itchy Pollen puts an extra 10 damage back onto this Monkey Dory, so the Adrenabrain plus Mind Bend combination can even get around this Bravery Charm. We're going to see the attachment from Alberto to the Dracloak. You can feel quite confident that many Gardevoird EX players these days do not play Boss's Orders at all. So you don't have to fear many gusting effects. There we go. Pass things over. Just the psychic energy drawn for Consta. Again, it's horrific. Again, you can take another prize card. You still don't fear an unfair stamp. You could swing an extra energy onto a Ralts here, just to take it out of the deck. You know you can retreat these energy later for your Psychic Embrace.
Yeah, and on the side of Alberto, he's looking to try and get that sort of delayed board removal and get both Ralts, get everything taken away.
So a third one.
That's what Consta's saying, well, you can't take out 3 in one go, so we'll be safe if we keep doing that. And this is an interesting difference. Most players would look to try and set up that Budu and create more turns, but actually the more turns that go on, the more Dragapult is able to set up and start drawing cards with that recon directive. So a slower game with no evolutions is favoured for the Dracloak engine, where Ralts, unless it evolves into Gardevoird, you're not going to be doing a huge amount. There's no draw there. There's not that ability to just start motoring through your deck. You're relying on those supporter cards that are so key to the deck.
Will Monkey Dory continue to take KOs here? I think Consta is simply saying that my hand is so poor anyway. I'd welcome 2 random cards at this stage.
Well, all those energy in hand, they need to be discarded, but you can't discard them while the item lock's going.
Still refuses to use Adrenabrain. Instead, it's going to confuse this Budu. Try and remove the Itchy Pollen that way. 2 more cards to see for Alberto. He gets to keep one of them. Will this get him out of a slower hand himself?
Yeah, only the 2 cards in his hand, so top decking in a way with an extra look with that recon directive, but not ideal.
Both players in such a strange stalemate here. Alberto has to fear the fact that Itchy Pollen is not guaranteed now. In fact, a Tails flip on Confusion would knock the Budu out. That's horrific.
I mean, normally we see these coin flips from a Mind Bend Confusion for late game attacks to end the game.
It's an Arven.
This is an early Mind Bend that would potentially open up the game for Consta if there's a Tails flip.
Arven can grant you access to switch, so you can guarantee go into the Genesect with the rescue board and bring the Budu back in. And yeah, we are going to see the switch from Alberto. He's already drawn all of his tools naturally. There's 3 of them in play.
Wow, this just shows you how important it is to get this item lock off for Alberto. Needs more time, so we'll be switching, retreating back into the Budu. We'll get another Itchy Pollen off, but you mentioned about that Monkey Dory. What Consta's done quite cleverly here is he wants to be in control of that on his side of the board so that the new active would become confused. It
was a big risk from Consta because if you don't use it, you can lose it if Alberto had been able to find a Dragapult EX. But in this case, Consta now has even more damage to play with. Finally picks up a Mew EX as well. Another Pokemon to put into play to safeguard yourself if you are going to start taking prize cards. And I feel like it's a decent choice to do so at this stage.
Especially with that Bravery Charm. The Mew EX with 180 hit points is very vulnerable to the Dragapult's Phantom Dive that does 200 damage. Bravery Charm adding 50 HP will put it out of range and would be a safe option to protect.
This is a huge prize card because Iono will be plucked here from the prizes with the Adrenabrain. That can also finally start unlocking his hand for Consta. He's holding on to Ultra Ball Rare Candy, can't use them because of the Itchy Pollen item lock. So may still not want to put it into play. But Mike, I really like what you mentioned. The Bravery Charm combination with the Mew gives you a lot more protection. So it can sit on board a little bit more comfortably.
Ooh, debating the Artisan, maybe even looking to do their own Budu now. And almost say, Alberto, you're struggling. Let me take your options away.
With 2 Budu in the discard pile for Alberto, he also can't then use Night Stretcher to bring back his own Budu if you use Itchy Pollen this turn. So you're almost locking your opponent out of an Itchy Pollen by doing this, and you also lock out the unfair stamp. We often talk about how great these top players are navigating unusual situations. Most players are capable of following the route that their deck is meant to follow, but suddenly when you're posed with a completely different start, it's the navigation like this that we see from those players who are looking to make regional finals, winning them. They see these routes completely differently and recognize the options of the opponent and take them away. And that Budu, as you mentioned, will allow Consta to play items next turn should he attack with it. I love this choice. It also protects your Monkey Dory, and that's still, the Adrenabrain is still one of the crucial selling points of Gardevoird. Typically, the more Monkey Dory you see powered up on the bench, the more they're capable of. They can reach higher damage output, or they can target multiple Pokemon at once. So trying trying to protect this one Monkey Dory, we know the other ones in the prize cards, is still vital here.
I'm actually going to be attaching that Bravery Charm to the Budu. We mentioned how it could work great with that Mew EX, but on this occasion, Consta happy to item lock, happy to see new cards as that hand does have the Iono in, but recognises Alberto is not seeing much here, so isn't particularly worried about any kind of disruption. Iono would be 4, unfair stamp is locked out with Budu. What can Alberto do here?
Iono is finally coming into this hand, so Alberto can get a fresh few cards here, and boy does he need them. We need to see more Dracloak. We need to see Dragapult EX ideally as well. We need to start pressurizing.
And that would be able to swing straight into the active. A Dragapult EX would begin the game for Alberto, allow him to start using that amazing Phantom Dive attack, 200 damage to the active and 6 damage counters on the bench. But even then, you're putting damage about for the Monkey Dory. This is why people are so scared of Gardevoird when they are playing that Dragapult.
There's Antipity EX into the hand, in addition to a Horlucha.
Okay.
Let's see the Flip the Script 3 cards. I think we need more help here, Mike.
Certainly. Let's see what they
Ultra
are.
Ball does hit the hand.
Can't use it.
Antipity. Can't use it with the Itchy Pollen. That's no help. No, we've just run into a bunch of item cards and supporters.
Does have the Jacq for the next turn.
Yeah.
A great card to allow you to find those Pokemon under item lock, but this Budu has been timed perfectly to give Consta the time now to establish his board after getting those early knockouts with the Monkey Dory.
And this is his first turn with items, and he's got a handful of them. He's got 3 Ultra Ball, and then also a Rare Candy, and a Night Stretcher. So you can guarantee a Gardevoird EX if you would like. You could also grab that Mew EX that was shuffled towards the bottom and draw a few additional cards that way. But really, I think as long as you get Gardevoird, you're cruising with this deck.
Yeah, Gardevoird, such a big Pokemon as well. 310 HP, out of range of most of the options on Alberto's side. Doesn't have that Dusknoir line, which can be utilized to take those knockouts. Has to rely on just 200 damage to the active, and Gardevoird can be used as an attacker here, knowing that it's safe from any future knockouts.
There we see the Rare Candy into Gardevoird EX. There is at least one Psychic. There are 2 Psychic Energy in the discard pile, so we can continue to launch attacks. And it will be that chunky Gardevoird EX itself, as you said, Mike, not in too much danger, especially with also Adrenabrain helping you heal off this Gardevoird a little bit as well.
Yeah, using that Psychic Embrace, attaching 2 energy from the discard pile. Does put that damage on, but we keep talking about Adrenabrain, how powerful it is. It's a benefit in the context of this board state to have that damage put into play, and allows you to start setting up future knockouts. Speaking of a knockout, there we go. The Genesect goes down. The rescue board pivot has been taken away. Consta can now use Ace-Specs, but it is still locked up in the prize cards.
However, the Monkey Dory is taking off those prizes, and a second Monkey Dory on the bench starts making Gardevoird even more dangerous. Alberto will see a huge chunk of cards here. Flip the Script is once again live. He has 1 Recon Directive. He has to start getting his Dragapult EX in the mix. However, there's danger, because whenever Gardevoird is powered up, you know that Lily's Clefairy can hit the board at any stage of this game, and then suddenly those Dragapult can be KO'd very easily.
Yeah, Lily's Clefairy has really been the main check to Dragapult. When a Pokemon has no weakness and has 320 HP, it's very hard to knock out for a lot of decks, but the Lily's Clefairy, coming out in Journeys Together, has the Fairy's own ability, meaning the weakness of all opponents' Dragon-type Pokemon is now Psychic, and it doesn't mean you have to attack with the Lily's Clefairy. You can use attackers like that Gardevoird, the Mew EX, or any of the Psychic attackers in the deck to hit for weakness.
Our supporter for the turn was Jacq, grabbing a couple of Dracloak, but the Flip the Script did give Alberto the unfair stamp. So we can still disrupt Consta down. He still is sat on a low hand himself, of course, and didn't play a supporter last turn. So Alberto might continue to hold the Ace-Spec for a turn longer and just grow this ridiculous hand size. We know he had the Ultra Ball on the previous turn, so we'll be able to get into a Dragapult EX. It's just how else can you manipulate this bench? Can we get into any counter catcher? I feel like taking out Monkey Dory is still a really strong option for you.
Well, it looks like Alberto finally setting up as intended, but with 3 prize cards taken by Consta, it's going to be a huge climb back into the match, and we've seen Dragapult do it on stream before. Arthur yesterday, 2 amazing comebacks, but that was against a deck like Raging Bolt, which can be disrupted. Gardevoird, once it's on board, the Gardevoird EX kind of works itself through the rest of the matchup.
Yeah, you use those energy as a reservoir in the discard pile, and your opponent can't really stop you. You just have a lot of play off the board. And Alberto has to debate whether or not the stamp is worth it now or later. It would give him access to possibly like a Boss's Orders plus unfair stamp combination on a future turn. Looks like he's also holding the counter catch option here. Is going to burn a Buddy Buddy Poff in. Just for the shuffle.
And that Monkey Dory is the big target you often see taken out in the matchup, but when you're taking 1 prizes as Dragapult, you do have a lot further to return, but so much power from the Adrenabrain, really something to worry about, and we'll just be swinging into the active. And now the question is, where do those 6 damage counters go? Because they could be coming straight back at you next turn.
I feel like you have to split this up quite carefully. If ever there's 3 counters put somewhere, this Monkey Dory can really mop up your own bench. It's possible that Consta could even win this turn.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. That is so true. Another Adrenabrain would take out that Dracloak on the bench with 30 damage on it already.
It's an Earthen Vessel coming into the hand, and with the Monkey Dory taken from prize cards, you now can get double Adrenabrain. You can completely heal the bolts that just took 6 damage counters.
You would then be bench locked, so I don't know if Lily's Clefairy would be able to come in, but then that Pheasantipity, only 210 HP.
I think the final card is Ultra Ball, so that's a debate. Is it Earthen Vessel plus Monkey Dory, get double Adrenabrain, or do we just use Lily's Clefairy now and take out a Dragapult EX?
Well, we'll see the decision-making. Both these players warranted their position here with such strong performances at this event, as well as many others, and looking to try and become the Utrecht champion. We are in the final round of Swiss, round 12, as these players looking to make it into that top cut. The asymmetrical top cut is awaiting, and it will be the winner of this, guaranteeing their spot
So there was one crucial decision there, Mike, that I would have slightly preferred. Here we go. We're going to retreat the Gardevoird EX and use the energy here on the Lily's Clefairy. What I would have liked was to use the Earthen Vessel, just to thin 2 more Psychic Energy, and then you can have both Gardevoird and Clefairy already threatening for game. This way your Clefairy is under fire, but the Gardevoird's a little bit more protected. Here comes the Adrenabrain. The KO is already guaranteed from the Lily's Clefairy.
Where are you
our weakness, of course.
Where are you going to put the damage? That's the question. You know, move it from the Rolts onto that Dracloak. Now it's one Adrenabrain away from knockout, and that active Dragapult EX will be taken out by the Lily's Clefairy. 1 prize card remaining now for Consta. Alberto hasn't taken a single prize card here, has 6 remaining. We'll have to claw back into this game, which will be incredibly challenging given the stakes and how much this board is in favour of Consta. Gardevoird, the favoured deck in the endgame once set up. But can Dragapult find a way through it? There is no energy in the discard pile, so there is potential for shenanigans. But the moment anything is knocked out, a Lily's Clefairy or a Gardevoird will go forward to finish the game.
That means the Lily's Clefairy EX is the most predominant threat. You have to KO that this turn, unless you're trying to use a Blood Moon Ursa Luna EX. That could be one of the only tankier options remaining for you. And don't go for Phantom Dive this turn, because you know you would just be a Night Stretcher away. This Fairy Zone is the reason why Gardevoird is so much more favoured into Dragapult now than pre-Journey Together. It's just been a one-off inclusion in the deck that has been so pivotal. Consta only needing 1 prize card to take to close out this game. Alberto does have a lot of damage spread around, and we know that Dragapult can really get creative.
Yeah, potentially seeing a line here. You know, these players have so much familiarity with what's possible, and I think one of the key understandings about Dragapult is with disruption, with a few knockouts, there's always a way. There's always some kind of route back into the game. And in this context, if you take out that Lily's Clefairy, Iono, Consta down to 1, and they're not able to take the knockout the next turn, you are very much in a position of being able to secure the game in 2 turns.
You can see how it lines up with so many damaged, low hit point Pokemon, already a heavily damaged Gardevoird. And even Adrenabrain wouldn't really stop you too often, because of the likes of Lucha can also fly in and help you deal with the final rolls in addition to the Gardevoird EX. So that's a 2-turn attack map planned out for Alberto. And he's attacking this turn, don't forget. So with a hand disruption of Consta down to 1 card, he's still right in it.
So you can evolve the active. Just doing the maths with the 6 damage moved over from the Adrenabrain, you do have to start wondering about other options, and one of them could be a raw knockout from a high damage output attack, rather than needing to use that Fairy Zone of the Lily's Clefairy, would be able to knock out with some Adrenabrain. And I think this is the kind of vision, recognising how the next 2 turns are going, evolving both of the Dracloaks. Yeah, this might involve Mew EX in that it could copy a Phantom Dive, so you're keeping your Dracloak also out of range, just having as much hit points as possible here. Presentity can still be brought up and KO'd, but when Consta's at 1 prize card, he can't use his counter catches, of course, would then have to find Scream Tail plus Bravery Charm plus a bunch of other energy. Alberto still needs an energy on that active, and so we'll be flipping the script here, knows what's left in that deck, and considering he's seeing 9 cards here, there is the energy. It is a fire energy, couldn't have been a Luminous, well, could have retreated and used Eventual in that context, but does have the ability now to Phantom Dive, taking out that active and starting setting up game for next turn. I think he has to finish off this Rolts, I would imagine. If we want a 3-attack game plan, we know Monkey Dory can disrupt it otherwise. The only question mark is opening up more bench spaces can be a headache for you. Arson is still in play, so it could access a second Monkey Dory that little bit more easily. You see that the Gardevoird EX now has 40 HP remaining, and so we'll be in close range of the damage. With the Adrenabrain, it would potentially put 70 damage away, but then there's lots of different... Professor's Research, Mike! Oh my goodness. 1-card hand, Professor's Research. What a dream for Consta. Disrupted down, hasn't used many of his supporters throughout the game, and they've come in strong at the end. That deck is still looking very thick, so a lot of options to find, but seeing 7 cards fresh off of Professor's Research will be huge. There's only 2 Psych Energy in the discard pile right now, so we still need to find additional discarding cards to really make some of our most potent attackers available, but Night Stretcher is the key here. Finding Night Stretcher and it's all over. Well, fresh 7, Buddy Poffin won't do much at this stage. Some of evolutions for those routes might help him out of danger. Oh my goodness. No energy though. Can't believe this. Is there an avoiding some Curlier, some higher hit points? You can Adrenabrain off a Curlier as well, so I don't think you're suddenly in a losing position, but somehow Alberto has hung on here. You can Nest Ball out Pheasantipity, but that's your final bench space. And it's at risk of being knocked out for 2 prize cards. Exactly. And that would open yourself up to big problems with a heavily damaged Gardevoird EX. Same with that Mew we mentioned. If you put the Mew EX in play, then the Gardevoird plus Mew is a target. So just got to debate what to put on the bench here. With no energy there, though, you're very limited on what attackers you could use. You have things like Drifloon that you could potentially attack with, but without a charm and without the energy available, it's going to be really tricky to take those big knockouts. Also just making sure. Already chose to fail Artisan, then fails Buddy Poffin, now finds Nest Ball. Does he just want to keep Pheasantipity EX in play with the Bravery Charm and say that this gives myself the best chance to still stop something next turn, expecting more hand disruption back down to 1? Well, the maths is all changing so quickly. Those 2 Curlier making those Pokemon so much bigger, more HP, and then you've got the Budu, which is so typically easy pickings for the Dragapult. Has that Bravery Charm, so 80 hit points on there. So this is really, you can see how much it's forcing both these players to think. Alberto leaning in, doing the maths. What's he got off this? Flip the script, it's an energy and a Night Stretcher, but the bench is locked. You can turn attach to Monkey Dory. Mind Bend is live. Confusing the Dragapult forces more from Alberto on the following turn. Hasn't used Adrenabrain yet either. Oh, this is an interesting situation. If this Mind Bend comes out, we could see Alberto taking the game next turn. He had 6 prize cards to take. Consta had 1. Will he be able to come back here? What's Consta's option? We have to Bravery Charm the Pheasantipity, surely. It's in hand there.
It's too vulnerable, yes. That gives you a lot of protection against a Hawlucha counter-catcher 4-prize swing from Alberto. Here we go, the Mind Bend is the attack launched. Confusing the Dragapult EX. Alberto will now have to retreat and use his other one. He probably would have anyway because it's heavily damaged. But can Alberto once again disrupt Consta down?
Now we've got a very different end game. This has completely changed the options for Alberto. He's going to have to find a new route to victory. Consta doing everything in his power to get another turn to try and win next time. And that Mind Bend will force Alberto to potentially use the other Dragapult, and that could even change up the game. So we might have only been one prize card away for Consta, but it's going to be a hard one to find.
I think your best line probably involves dusting up the Pheasant Dipsy even though you can't KO it, and saying that you'll still win in 2 Phantom Dives time. By not taking prize cards, you deny Pheasant Dipsy EX for draw, and that's still the safest route you have. Alberto even checking how many cards remain in his deck now.
Even try Ionoing to 1 again and trade and saying, we didn't get it last time. The Professor's research was there for Consta, but maybe 2 times is how many it'll take to get this final play. So an Ultra Ball being used.
Countercatcher Iono is still the big combination here. There are still Countercatchers remaining in the deck. Blood Moon Ursa Luna comes into the thinking. Maybe just a card he doesn't want to draw into. So we'll then Iono it to the bottom of the deck, getting him a little closer to the Countercatcher that he needs to find here.
Wow, so these little decisions are the kind of decisions that could dictate our winner here. There is a Luminous Energy in hand, so we'll be able to attach to that benched Dragapult and use that to attack this turn for a guaranteed attack, not having to worry about that confusion, where if Pokemon is confused, you have to flip a coin to find out what you can attack. And there, the Iono almost coming down, and I think it's going to be.
Consta found the Professor's research from the previous hand disruption. Alberto going to try again. One more random card. Alberto also probably needs to find his Countercatcher from these 4 cards. There it is.
Oh, 2 in fact, I think. So he's got 1 for next turn as well. So we'll be retreating. Using that Countercatcher, what's the target? You said Pheasant Dipsy would make sense. Let's see what Alberto thinks.
You cannot give Consta any more access to cards. You have to say 1 is all you're getting. Here comes the Pheasant Dipsy EX. You can just damage all over this board. Get yourself even out of range of Monkey Dory removal.
And putting that Gardevoird down to 10 hit points remaining here. And that's going to be unable to be healed out of range. And so it will be next turn that we'll see Alberto taking the lead. What can Consta do this turn? What did you see of that Iono? Down to 1 card.
Psychic Energy. Was it Night Stretcher?
I don't think that's going to be enough. A Night Stretcher and a Psychic Energy, but can get the retreat off.
You can heal the Gardevoird, but you still can't attack.
Would you then go to Item Lock?
You can go in. Yeah, you have to go into Budgie, I believe.
Wow, this has been far too many turns considering how many prizes Consta had left. The energy attachment is there, the retreat.
Or Mind Bend. That's also an option.
Back into that Monkey Dory, relying on that coin flip to gain back a turn. The energy is running low for Alberto.
Adrenabrain once again. Crucial to keep healing off your Pokemon here. Repping this Dragapult as best you can.
Where'd you get rid of this?
But the confusion is so huge here.
Take off the Pheasant Dipsy? Do you take off the Gardevoird? Does it even matter? Is it these fine margins at this stage is what dictates who's going to win the game?
I like it going on Pheasant Dipsy just in case you can find room for a Screen Tail. Here comes the big confusion though. Alberto, even if he's able to find a boss's orders, which I don't think we see, he will have to coin flip here. We do have the Iono. Oh my goodness, is Alberto flipping this coin?
Oh, I think it might be. We've got the Countercatcher, and I'm just trying to do the maths. This could be coming down to a coin flip. Consta had 1 prize card remaining. Alberto had 6. Will it be a 50-50 to decide who wins this game? Can he find the victory in this final moment? Is he going to look for more cards? What's the plan here? Alberto wants to try and guarantee this, but may have to just rely on that coin flip.
He's really thinking about this Iono. He's going to launch it by the looks of things. He's going to use Hawlucha first, perhaps.
Well, the Hawlucha would take out that Gardevoird, which might open up more options.
He does have a Luminous in his prize cards, Mike.
But that Luminous energy on the bench, Dragapult, would mean he can't attach that. He chose to discard the Fire Energy earlier. Oh my goodness. Does he have a Night Stretcher in deck as well? Just thinking through all the different resources.
Alberto, thinking of these final moments. You've brought it back this far. You're edging closer. Artisan to check. What can I see? It's only Luminous Energies and Night Stretcher. It's 1 Night Stretcher only, Mike.
And that would guarantee the attack here, and he has to play for the guaranteed attack. You can't risk that 50-50. You've always got it as a backup plan.
How many cards are in the deck? I think this is where Alberto checks exactly his prize map as well, to know those 4 exact cards to know whether or not Hawlucha's correct. You see less cards if you use Hawlucha, so you have to not use the Flying Entry, at least to take a knockout.
Just to make sure.
You could play it simply not to draw back into it ever.
Wow, I mean, if you see the Monkey Dory plus Luminous Energy, does that open up any options?
Flying Entry. He is going to take the knockout here.
Oh, wow, so
now he only sees 2 cards from his own Iono.
But can he just retreat and Jet Headbutt here? Different options available. Does find that Luminous and Dragapult on the prize card, so he's going to have to try and work out, is the maths here correct?
170 damage on the Pheasant Dipsy with Bravery Charm, should have 90 remaining.
So can't just Jet Headbutt here. Was playing maybe for the Monkey Dory plus Luminous Energy.
Yes. 2 cards.
Oh, Blood Moon! And that's going to be game there. Blood Moon Ursa Luna does not require an energy to attack. Has the ability to knock out the active Pokemon. Opted for the Hawlucha to get the guaranteed knockout. All he had to do was find enough damage on the active. There was multiple ways he could have done it, but in the end, chose the right way. Alberto Conti, 6 prizes down to 1 and found the way back in.
And you can see why he had a sigh of relief there. My goodness, what a game we've just seen. The deficit was massive, as big as it can get, some would say. But Consta with no engine Pokemon fitting onto his board as we go through this replay. Alberto early on utilising the Budju. He was giving up prize cards to Consta, but simply trying to deny rare candy for as long as possible. And you can see his nerves there, thinking, my goodness, a rare candy combination. Finding the Lily's Clefairy, finding Professor's research no less from the Iono to won the first time around. Alberto must have thought all was lost, but kept in it.
Well, you say he must have thought all was lost. Decided to carry on. A lot of players, when they felt there's no route, would scoop, but there was a small, slim chance, relying on Consta not finding the right pieces with that disruption, and he had to do it twice. I owned it the first time, wasn't enough. I owned it the second time, and then Consta came back in and said, well, now you have to coin flip. I'll use that mind bend. So in the end, the Holucha route Alberto went for, see less cards off Iono, but it means there's more variety of outs to take the knockout.
There it was, the Blood Moon Asuna at the very end there. So crucial in the deck. That season skill ability allowing you to attack for free when your opponent has only one prize card remaining. But we're seeing the fist bump going into game number 2. See some prize cards.
What, 3 Iono?
Yeah, that's pretty rough for Consta actually. That's your crucial draw supporters. Not much time on the clock left either. 16 minutes. We've just seen how long game 1 took. So this is going to come down to it. Alberto forced to go first here. Has still found a Buddy Poffin, so will still be able to find a number of his basic Pokemon. Has to be happy with how that game 1 went. Well, both players pretty much accepting that it was a best of 1 in many ways.
Yeah, we saw the early pressure from Consta using that mind bend to take the knockouts, and I think as the game went on, his mind did bend as the complexity of the game really increased, and it was that structure that Alberto found about 4 turns in of the 3 Dragapult, the Pheasantipity, energy on board, and really established an end game that was possible. And it was so close every time for Consta to find the way through, but it just didn't quite pan out for him, and that's why it's so key to have that stable board state for both of these decks where you can guarantee your game plan, even if you're disrupted.
It was one of those strange moments where we're so frequently talking about Dragapult taking multiple prize KOs with Phantom Dive throughout the game that Consta filled his bench with a number of rolls just to protect himself. But then Alberto used that to his advantage instead in game number 1. So many creative plays available as Alberto's going to pass things over. Quite happy with the turn attachment in addition to the second Dreepy and Budju. Looks like Consta also has a number of ball search cards in his opener, so has to be fairly content with this, Mike.
Yeah, we'll be looking to do that deck check now and work out what's available. And I think it's also something to note here of these players have been playing a long time now. This is the final round, a lot on the line. That kind of pressure, playing on stream, playing a game as tense as that, they must be feeling a lot of adrenaline right now.
And you were getting whooped as well. you were really behind it. You were up against it. Consta was putting you right in an awkward spot, to be sure. But this is why Alberto is one of our top players in Europe. You know, that's why we've seen him beat literally the best of all time, Tor Reklev, in a final. There's no more pressure than that, Mike.
The final boss, as he mentioned. The Buddy does come down early for Consta this time, looking to use that item lock through Itchy Pollen, where last game we saw it avoided for a little while. As the attach retreat, Itchy Pollen, straight away, Alberto is going to be limited in options, but does have the Iono there to be able to see more cards. And 2 Drakloak, in fact.
2 Drakloak already. Wow, that's exactly what you want to see. This is a slow evolving archetype. You can see the Arven, in fact, here. Despite an Itchy Pollen, still opting for the tool so that he can protect his energy attachments, as of course this is vital to pressure with Phantom Dive as much as possible.
And we see that luminous energy on the active, a card that's been in the format for a while but hasn't seen as much play as it has recently. Why is this card so good in Dragapult now?
Well, it means because of your 2 different energy type attack cost, you can see either of them, and that can fix your attacker. But at the same time, it's because of Monkey Dory. Monkey Dory requires darkness energy to use its Adrenabrain, so it fulfills you for an attack cost, but also a crucial ability within your deck.
Yeah, that versatility and the ability of Monkey Dory is so good right now. One of those top cards in the format. Monkey Dory, Pheasantipity, and this little plant that could, Budju, Itchy Pollen, one of the most powerful attacks in the format right now.
And looks like we will just see a quick Artisan for an additional Dreepy before we get into some Budju plus Budju action. Stop me if you've heard that before. Pollen into Pollen is pretty common for these stage 2s, but it's crucial for Alberto to avoid rare candy. That's the main card he's trying to avoid here. The ball search cards, it's great to slow those down, but that rare candy is where it all gets tricky. As soon as a Gardevoird is found, things get really awkward.
And these Buddy Wars can be very interesting because you have that 1 damage counter that can be moved around with the Monkey Dory too. You want to take those knockouts, but you still want to make sure you item lock your opponent. Sometimes the knockouts can open up things like Pheasantipity. So the complexity of this back and forth can often be more challenging to navigate than it might look like on the surface. But that Curly evolution is huge. And the research will see so many more cards. The supporters in this Gardevoird deck are so key now.
And critically, we find a Psychic Energy for this TM evolution. Consta is opting to use this tool card to help him get around the Itchy Pollen. And he didn't even draw into any Gardevoird or Curlier. So we'll happily get both of those and evolve up even under this item lock.
TM Evolution was the best friend of Gardevoird for a long time, but then Buddy came along and people opted to slow down the game rather than speed up the evolution. But why now might people be looking to go back towards that TM Evolution to speed up Gardevoird's addition to play?
It's that vulnerability of the Rolts and Curlier, so a Dragapult can stop them ever coming into play, those Gardevoird EX. But at the same time, when you can't use rare candy, you've got to get there some other means, and it really unlocks your Arven. As we pass things over to Alberto, has to be slightly more concerned about the board state now that there's a Gardevoird EX and the Curlier staring him down.
Last game we said once that Gardevoird X comes into play, it's very heavily in favour of Gardevoird. But what happened last game? Consta wasn't able to get those attacks off because the bench was so full.
Yes.
This time we see 2 bench spaces free.
So he's got to be feeling even happier about this ball position, and he's going to need to if he's going to turn around this game number 2 in our final round of Swiss here in Utrecht before finding out who will enter our asymmetrical top cut. Alberto a game up in our best of 3. Consta looking to find a way back to at least bring it to a draw. We see a Jacques supporter coming out from Alberto. It's been a real highlight supporter on our stream, specifically today, I think, where it's really shown its worth in these Dragapult archetypes.
Yeah, some supporters being used for Pokemon search, Brock scouting, Juck. Shows you how impactful that Budu is. When you're item locked, you can't use your Ultra Balls, your Nest Balls, your Buddy Poppins, so you have to find a way around it. And a turn like this is a prime example of why you can find not only more Dragapults to keep yourself drawing, but that Dragapult, which can often be so elusive under Buddy lock.
Alberto thanking Consta for the use of Artisan once again this turn, is able to find Monkey Dory for free. Both players opting to take advantage of this phenomenal card. There is Luminous Energy in the hand for Alberto, so he can spend that on his bench Monkey Dory. But equally is aware that Dragapult can go down quite quickly in the matchup, so might just want to spread his energy to ensure that he can continue Phantom Dive throughout the entire game.
When we look at Gardevoird, there's two kind of mini-games you have to play. Getting that Gardevoird EX into play, but also getting lots of Psychic Energy into the discard pile. And this game, the Gardevoird's coming into play, but maybe not the energy available to be able to utilise it just yet.
There's one Psychic Energy on the active that you can play with. That's about it. So working towards an attachment this turn for Consta is probably the priority. I saw a bunch of item cards. Is there any supporters here for Consta? As we know, once again, 3 Iono in the prizes will make it unlikely. Now I see a lot of Pokemon, not much else. Ooh, yeah, we're going to retreat the Monkey Dory and simply Itchy Pollen back into Alberto here. There's nothing else we can do. We're clogged up with items.
Well, the moment the Dragapult starts attacking and the item lock is unlocked, then you'll see Consta find a way to get energy into discard pile a lot easier, as items are typically the main way to discard if you've not got research available. But you see how many more cards the Dragapult deck is able to find using those Dracloaks, choosing not to evolve the Dracloak last turn despite having the Dragapult, so you can still draw all these cards this turn.
It's what Gardevoird used to boast. It used to have refinement at its disposal, but since rotation, it's become more of an aggressive archetype with less focus on draw power, more focus on just the Festivity EX to help you out in the game, and rely purely on its damage manipulation. Dragapult has both. These Dracloak really get you motoring through quickly, and now Alberto is taking more and more control of this game.
And we see that Earthen Vessel, one of the most powerful cards across the format. The best way to find energy from your deck also has that discard, which typically is seen as a negative in cards, having to discard something from your hand. But when you have these huge hands of cards you don't want to see again, the discard synergy is amazing.
Especially with Night Stretcher in the formats. The Bravery Charm was the bigger find for the Arvin, though, to protect Alberto against the potential Adrenabrain plus Itchy Pollen combination. The top deck for Consta didn't seem like it changed much. No, just another item card by the looks of things, another rare candy. There's nothing Consta can do aside from use Artisan and Itchy Pollen again. He's done the first objective of finding Gardevoird, but that second objective of filtering the Psychic Energy, there's only 2 of them to play with. The good news is, if ever Alberto gets aggressive with Dragapults, there is a Lily's Clefairy holding out in the hand right now.
On the other side, Alberto choosing to keep it all one prize card. All of these Pokemon, if they're taken out, it's fine, because then you can start to use things like your Unfair Stamp and really start a comeback. And the Monkey Dory will be moved forward. That will increase the damage output with that Mind Bend for 60 damage.
But also, again, making it awkward for Alberto to maintain an Itchy Pollen lock. Consta saying, please start taking knockouts with Phantom Dive. Still not taking a knockout yourself either.
Interesting not able to use that Adrenabrain. There's no Dark Energy, and that's a challenge that we often see early on to try and get Dark Energy in play. Last game it was there straight away, but this time elusive.
Item lock removed is enticing enough for Alberto to come in and start launching attacks with his Dragapult. Consta hasn't done anything for a number of turns too substantial. It's just been some Itchy Pollen and now a Mind Bend. But thanks to Confusion, again, there's switch in hand, so you can just continue Budgie if you want to. You can just keep drawing cards. You know that you're in a slightly advantageous position here. But you can start wiping Pokemon off the board as well.
Now we see that Earthen Vessel can search your deck for any 2 energy, and they will be going straight to your hand. You do have to discard, but the Brock Scouting, now the board is set up, won't be so useful later on, so discarded there. But that hand, so big for Alberto, can pretty much choose anything he wants to do at any given moment, but really does need to start finding big knockout turns, and it's really hard with how stable Consta's board is. There's nothing you can really do right now. It's too scary to him.
There's so many reasons why Dragapult loves to slow the game down behind this Budgie. Gives you more time to manually attach throughout the game, gives you more use of recon directives. Sometimes you even get help with Monkey Dory if your opponent's attacking back into you with chip damage, and you're also laying that trap of the Unfair Stamp as well. So there's just so many reasons why Alberto can continue to be content here behind the Budgie. There's switch in hand if ever he wants to simply retreat back into this Budgie and just keep on this tiny amount of pressure, knowing the next turn you could go aggressive and try and stamp at the same time. We're back into Budgie, removing the Confusion. There is 70 damage on this Budgie though, so Consta could still finish off the Budgie with his own Budgie that would maintain an Itchy Pollen lock.
Yeah, and we're so reliant on being behind on prize cards to use that counter catcher, and we often see these matchups stalemate when you're on the same prize cards, with the most obvious point in the game being when you both have 6 prize cards remaining. It goes slower, and for Alberto, the slower the game is, the better it is, as he is currently 1-0 up, and if we don't finish this game, would be victorious. So he's not looking to rush, as he knows time is on his side.
The EXP share going onto a bench Dracloak as well. That means that you have some certainty that you will be able to chain Phantom Dive attacks throughout this entire game. Also going to thin as many item cards as possible. He was hit with a Mind Bend last turn, so can use this Buddy Poffin.
Just the Itchy Pollen there, going to be item locked once again, and I think this is the slow gameplay we expect to see out of this matchup, but Consta looking to try and initiate some knockouts now, has that Monkey Dory in the active, Lily's Clefairy coming down, but there's no big Dragapult to take out. We'll have to try and find a way to take a knockout here maybe with the Monkey Dory, find that Dark Energy, and then look to start taking more important prize cards like a Dracloak.
Finally an Iono for Consta, let him see some fresh cards, but also Alberto had a ridiculous hand size, so important to remove, and we finally start seeing some energy come into this hand.
That Iono was the last and only Iono in the deck currently, as the other three are in the prize cards, which isn't too bad. You happily have them drip-fed to you throughout the game, but it was hard to find that first one to disrupt the hand of Alberto. So,
ooh, an interesting psychic energy attachment. You could, ooh, here we go, we're retreating into Budju, knowing that we can finish off Budju with Budju. And there we go, it's going to be an Itchy Pollen KO. You don't see it too often, especially when there's a Bravery Charm one getting dealt with. But that means Consta isn't walking into an unfair stamp, crucially. That's a big card he's trying to avoid getting hit with now. Didn't quite find an Iono from the prizes either. Found a counter catcher.
And you see that Lily's Clefairy with the Bravery Charm on it. There's so many attackers in Consta's deck that are vulnerable to Dragapult attack, so have to come down with a Bravery Charm. UEX is another example of that. Sometimes that Pheasantipity too. So on this occasion, Lily's Clefairy is somewhat protected and would be able to return KO in the future. So Consta now initiating that prize race. Counter catches are on, but they can't be used under item lock, so a little bit of protection. Unfair stamp, similar story there. Alberto will now have to try and find a knockout, maybe using that boss's orders, as the Budu is not the primary target.
You've got to push that out of the way if possible. You waste 190 damage that way. You would much rather hit more dangerous threats.
And can use that Monkey Dory actually to take out that Budu. Moving 10 damage across from the active Dracloak would bring something else up into the active, but it would be under Consta's decision.
And yeah, still force Alberto to probably gust as well. Here we go. We'll take the freebie prize from the ability of Adrenabrain. Picking up, I believe it was the Genesect Ace Nullifier from those prize cards.
And there's that boss's orders.
Yeah, wants to push the Monkey Dory out of the way, because that can be finished off with a Phantom Dive now.
And if you put enough damage on this Lily's Clefairy, it would force an attachment from hand, as it would be tricky to try and power it up, or you'd have to move damage off of it with that Adrenabrain. But it's actually just going to be using that Dracloak.
Could possibly also be aware of time, let's not forget. With less than a minute left to play, by putting no multi-prizes into this mix, Consta has to take a huge number of them.
Maybe not able to find it. It was Ultra Balls in hand, but it was under item lock, so...
But this plays into Alberto's hands either way. He's happy to put chip damage into the Lily's Clefairy, knowing it gets him closer, without threatening an EX.
There is actually a Dragapult in Alberto Conti's prize card, so harder to find organically under item lock. Once you have the Ultra Ball available, it can be easier. We mentioned the Jacques and the Brock Scouting before, but they were Iono'd out of his previous hand. So just keeping the one prize board state here, has lots of energy in play, the Dracloak's still available, plenty of draw, now has that Monkey Dory online too, so does Consta. So this is going to become an intricate endgame as the research will see 7 fresh cards for Consta. Nice
combo there, secret boxing, then going to be using research. I think the time has now been called and players are just going to see if there's anything we can do here. Going to damage the Clefairy, we're going to retreat. We'll get confirmation of time being called here, but it looks like Consta may not be able to do it. It's one of these strange things. Yeah, it's going to be the fist bump here. Consta recognises he cannot take 5 prize cards in the 2 turns remaining. Alberto Conti, a fantastic game 1, and was able to smoothly cruise through that game number 2 as well.
I think fantastic might be an understatement. There he is, our winner. Will be going into top cut. Came back from 6 prize cards down. 5 prize cards down.
Got 6.
There was only 1 remaining for Consta, and Alberto had 6 to require, and he did it in amazing fashion. Unfortunately, not enough time for game 2, as it was a real thinker in game 1. You could see quite literally how much Alberto was having to think, and this stage here, it did look pretty unlikely for Alberto. It was seeming like everything was in Consta's favour. As we all know, Gardevoird very strong into Dragapult, but it's not a guaranteed win.
Alberto was able to put Consta down to 1 card, not once, but twice. And that was how he was able to slowly close out the game. He had to deal with the Lily's Clefairy EX, which did open up Consta to a Pheasantipity draw. You see there it is on the board, but that then gave Alberto a 2-attack win condition by plucking the bird into the active position and damaging heavily. We saw the Holucha pinging down Gardevoird before Alberto used Iono, and it was in fact the Blood Moon Ursaluna, thanks to its season skill with the retreat, could attack for free to finish off the Pheasantipity EX.
And Consta tried